All right, now we're going to look at CSS Animations. In the last example, we looked at transitions, and those were created by a hover effect triggered by our mouse. Now we're going to look at animations that use keyframes, and those are going to be triggered by the loading of our page. Okay, so let's first look at our @keyframes rule. And here's our example. The first thing we need to do is we're going to look at our box here, which is in the position relative, and it's from the top 30 pixels down and 50 pixels from the left. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is we are going to add our animation name. So animation name. And the animation name we're going to give it is, we'll call it example. And make sure it's spelled right. Okay. And we'll do our animation duration. So we need to give it some timing. And we'll give that 4 seconds. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and take the example from the W3 schools. And it's right here. This is the animation code. So copy and paste. So this is our @keyframes, and we called it example, which is the name I gave it here. And then we're going from, and then our property and value. So from the background color red to our background color yellow. So we'll save that. And then you see it gradually goes from red to yellow. Now, if you want to see it again, you have to refresh it each time. So animations are comprised of several keyframes that make up the animation. So basically this from and to are basically like having two keyframes that make up the red and the yellow, and then the computer is just transitioning in them between the two, or the CSS. So let's go ahead and add some extra keyframes. So instead of the from and to, we're going to add percentages. So you can do 1% to 2, all the way up to 100%, and we're going to add 5 total keyframes, and we've got it transitioning from different colors, so from red to yellow to blue to green to red, and these are the increments. So let's go ahead and save that and see how that looks. So there you can kind of see that it changes colors. So in order to get this animation to work, I have to refresh the button. Now we can change this by adding an animation iteration count. So this will have the animation repeat 3 times. And then it'll stop. Now we can also have it go in a continuous loop, and for that we'll just add in infinite. And then that will just continually loop right after it gets down to 100, and then it'll go back to 0, and then keep repeating over and over again. So now let's add some movement to our example animation. So we'll start adding more values in properties right after our first background color. So it's going to go in right here, right after our semicolon. And I'm going to use my position. I'm going to start it here at this position here, which is top 30 pixels and left at 50 pixels. So I'm going to copy and paste each one of these right after our color. So each one of these, we're going to change each value to make the movement. So we're going to leave the first one alone at our current position, and then the next one we'll move it over from the left, so we're going to move it to the right. So we're going to change this 350 pixels over, and we're going to keep top the same, and then next we're going to move it down, so we want our left to change. I'm sorry, we're going to keep that the same, and we're going to move this, sorry, our top downward, so that's going to move it down 230 pixels. And then we're keep the next one, keep this one the same, keep it at 230, and this one we're going to leave it because we're actually go back over to the left, so it's going to move back to its sort of its original position on the left, which will be 50 pixels, and then our last one will be back to the same original position to 30, its starting position, which is 30 and 50. So let's see if that works. And there you can see some movement. Okay, so next let's change the shape. And so we'll do that by adding a border radius, which is, giving it the rounded corners. And we can change that into a circle by giving it like 50%. So let's go ahead and add our border radius into each one of the keyframes. Okay, so I'm going to leave the first frame and the last frame a square. So on this one here, let's go ahead and we'll add, we'll do 50%. I'm just going to copy and paste that. And then maybe I'll add, oops. On the next one, I'll add it down here. Maybe I'll add 2. And maybe on the next one, maybe we'll change it to all 4 to give it that circle. And maybe we might want to add it. Let's keep that circle a little bit longer. We'll add all 50%. That way it's a perfect circle here. And maybe we'll add another one here at the end on the 2 corners. See how that looks. Okay, so you see it goes from a half frame. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now let's add a transform rotate. So we're going to have this kind of rotate sort of like a wheel. Okay, so let's add our transform, our property, and then we're going to rotate it, and our value will be 0 degrees. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste this for each one. I'm adding it after each semicolon. Okay, and so the first one I have at 0. I'm going to also end it at 0. That way it'll just kind of move back to the front. I'm going to change this one to 180 degrees. That'll give us like a halfway. I'm going to do it the 75%. I'm also going to do it 180. Is that the halfway? Yeah. Okay, and then I want the middle one. I'll do that at 360 degrees. So all the way around at the halfway point. Okay, and I'm also gonna, I think I'm gonna knock this down. I'm gonna hit a return. That way it, on each one of these, that way we're not getting too far off the end. You can see it okay. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, and it kind of looks like it kind of switches direction halfway, even though it's really going forward.